clearly gotten out of hand now, yes. But it was worth the risk, I assure you.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Since 2004's Doom 3, the franchise that arguably kicked off the first-person shooter genre has been dormant. Now, 12 years later, id Software have finally decided to reboot the series that put their studio's name on the map. With hardly any pre-launch single-player footage and a really controversial multiplayer beta, people were really worried about how this game would hold up. With so many reboots failing to recapture the magic of their originals, it was almost expected that the Doom reboot would be a disappointment. Is that the case? No, I don't think so. The Doom reboot is broadly split into three different game types: the single-player campaign, the PvP multiplayer, and then Snap Map, which allows players to design and share their own levels and game types. So Doom's campaign surprisingly manages to recapture the spirit of what Doom is, at least what it is to me as a casual fan of the series who recently had a lot of fun playing Brutal Doom, which is a fantastic overhaul of the original. When you think of Doom single player, a few things come to mind. First of all, excellent level design that provides interesting gameplay, spaces for combat, a semi-labyrinth to roam around in, and of course, lots of secrets to find. Does the new Doom recapture this? Well, each level has a number of secrets contained within, and some of them are regular collectibles, while others are currency that you use to upgrade your weapons and power armor. Levels are definitely a lot easier to navigate than the original, something that is aided by you having a compass. I think it does manage to strike a good balance between modern sensibilities and that old school design, though there are certainly times where you do have to properly consider the layout of the level when you're working out how to proceed. There's things like keycards, which also return as an element of the level design, which really do force you to pay attention to the environment, and it does reward those players with a keen eye. Overall, I think the level design is excellent, especially within the context of modern level design trends. Another core pillar of Doom is fast-paced combat, and I'm thrilled to say that the new Doom delivers this in bucket loads. This is easily some of the most enjoyable first-person shooter combat that I've played in years. How so? Well, first of all, your character moves really bloody fast throughout the map. The level design and enemy abilities all encourage you to be bunny hopping around the place at very fast speeds, plus the double jump that you eventually unlock adds a fantastic platforming element to the movement system. Doom provides you with a toolkit that you need to feel a sort of true level of mastery over your environment, which is really satisfying and really does make you feel powerful. And they're able to do this without giving you a ridiculous Call of Duty jetpack, Titanfall wall running thing. No, it's just really, really simple but well executed movement. This would, of course, all be for naught, though, if the game's enemies were generic, poorly designed hit-scan bores right out of Call of Duty. Well, combat should be an elaborate dance that demands the player's absolute focus, something which can only be achieved by having brilliant enemies to design with. In a great GDC 2003 talk, Harvey Smith, who is of Deus Ex and more recently Dishonored fame, outlined what he called orthogonal unit differentiation as a form of enemy design. It's a great presentation that I'll link below, but the key point to take away is that you want to have a set of enemies that are all very, very different from each other and really do fulfill different roles. If you're to take orthogonal from the mathematical perspective, it's kind of like, let's just say angles, like your enemies are all perpendicular to each other. Why would you want that? Well, not only are they going to be fun, unique enemies in their own right, but the different combinations of those enemies, every single different combination, will lead to a very different gameplay experience due to how the player has to deal with incoming attacks, change their movement patterns, and prioritize their kills. Excellent use of this principle is very clear both in the original Doom and the Doom remake. Combat is fast and frantic, but always with a purpose because of how well designed the enemies are. As you progress through the campaign, it'd throw more enemy types at you, and since every enemy type is so very different, any new addition really does change the feel of how you fight everything, including the enemies that you've been fighting all game long. You see, most of Doom's combat happens in arenas. You enter an arena and then a bunch of enemies spawn in. The more enemy types they add to the mix, the more decisions you have to make, and the more threats you have to consider. Overall, these enemy Overall, these enemy mechanics do a brilliant job of encouraging you to fully utilize your movement, which is another way of saying if you stand still, you're completely bollocked and you'll get murdered, which of course is good. I seriously don't know how this game would be that playable on a console though, because you need to move really fast and you need to aim pretty accurately. I mean, even though you're using a shotgun, it's still all very snap movement. There really isn't that much point explaining that combat depth with words though, because I think the gameplay footage that you're watching right now does an excellent job and tells you everything that you need to know. It's really all quite self-evident. Another pillar of Doom is the health and armor system. This largely returns, with health and armor being acquired via pickups on the map rather than you just passively generating a shield or something. A new addition to Doom though is glory kills. So when you sufficiently damage an enemy, they will start to blink orange. Going near them and pressing F will perform a glory kill. This is a short animation that will kill the enemy and spawn some health, armor, and ammo pickups. This was a bit controversial, and I believe it's something that Brutal Doom did, but I actually think it does work here. First, the animations look really bloody cool, and very importantly, are unobtrusively short. They tie into the flow of the gameplay quite well, and they help to maintain a frantic pace to the game's demon-filled arenas. They are also a fully optional system that I find myself only really using when I'm particularly low on health. Otherwise, I just shoot them in the face and it's fine. In general, I do like games that have systems that allow you to generate your health through offensive means rather than doing something stupid and boring like hiding behind a wall, because, come on, what's fun about hiding behind a wall? Anyway, having regular health pickups is still very welcome, and that whole system contributes to the pace of the game. Even if you're not shooting an enemy, you are frantically running around trying to hoover up health and armor pickups, which again, just makes the pace of the gameplay feel frantic, and it means that you've never got downtime. Now, the narrative of the game, I suppose moving swiftly onwards, serves only to deliver the gameplay, and that is probably how it should be for a game like Doom. The narrative is very thin, it tells you what you need to know to motivate the gameplay, but past that, who really cares? It's Doom, you're there to shoot demons. There are a few quite unfortunate moments where they lock you in a room for an exposition dump, but thankfully they are few and far between. Another pillar of Doom is badass weapons. The revamp of Doom is no disappointment in this regard, and for the most part Doom's guns are fantastic, both in single and multiplayer. Animations are really chunky, sound assets are great, and the overall sound mix between the sound of the weapons, the jibs from the enemies, it just does an excellent job of selling the power behind these guns. Unfortunately, the starter pistol just sucks, but past that, Doom offers a variety of weapons, many of which will be quite familiar to fans of the series. Most weapons have a form of alt-fire. For an example, the combat shotguns, alt-fire makes you shoot a grenade out, which is pretty cool. A good use of all these weapon alt-fires, though, is really a key to success, and it's a nice area of skill differentiation when it comes to its core combat loop. I'm going to leave most of the weapon talk to the video's footage, though. Going through one by one would take ages, and once again, the footage kind of speaks for itself. Now, weapons are a bit different in single and multiplayer. In single player, you can unlock different alt-fire modules, each of which has a upgrade path, with the needed currency being unlocked via secrets and challenges. Then in multiplayer, each weapon is set and cannot be modded for what I think are very clear balance and gameplay reasons. The single player allows you to upgrade your armor as well, which is fine, but it's really not that interesting. And finally, you're able to activate runes, which give you a host of beneficial effects. You can kind of choose your rune build, and these runes are unlocked via doing rune challenges. These are quick and pretty enjoyable tests of skill that do a good job of breaking up the regular gameplay. Overall, I think these elements combine to make one of the most enjoyable single-player campaigns that I've done in a very long time. I'm currently playing it at the hardest difficulty setting that's available on the outset, but after you complete it once, you can replay it on 2 even harder difficulty modes. I find that if I stand still, I die. If I'm stupid, I die. If I play well, I succeed, and that is how games should be. It rewards skilled play in a way that is extremely satisfying. Let's move on to the multiplayer, which really is an odd beast. If you go in expecting Unreal Tournament or Quake Live, you'll probably be disappointed. Though I think it, to a degree, does work as its own thing. My main issue is how they've attempted to modernize the overall gameplay and progression. First of all, you're able to spawn with a loadout of 2 weapons and an equipment item. Traditionally, players would spawn with a basic weapon and you'd pick other stuff up from the map. and weapons would spawn on a timer on the map. First of all, there was skill involved in knowing the weapon spawns, both where they were and how long they were. Second, it meant that all players started off from a level playing field. Third, the weapon spawns in the map were essentially a resource that teams would have to fight over. Controlling weapon spawns was a really core part of success. And then fourth, if every weapon is available on spawn, then they need to be balanced to be far more close together, which leads to each weapon, I think, feeling a little bit less different and a little bit weaker, and quite a bit less exciting than they perhaps need to be. I actually find myself being reminded of how giving players loadouts really damaged the team play in Halo 4, which thankfully is something that 343 Industries did manage to revert for Halo 5, which I think has far better multiplayer. While loadouts do suck much of the team play out of the game though, there are still power weapons like the Gauss Rifle or the BFG to fight over, as well as power-ups such as invulnerability, quad damage, and invisibility. Players can turn into a demon as well via map pickup. While being a demon does lead to fun streaks of kills, I don't really think it's a benefit to the core gameplay loop, because you're just randomly super powerful, and yes, that's a resource to fight over, but again, I rather would just have the purity of the gunplay be center stage. They also have hack modules. These are given to you as kind of like little pickups at the end of a match. You can take up to 4 of them into a game and you end up activating them one at a time. These give you minor power-ups throughout the match. They're a little bit similar to burn cards in Titanfall. I think they're amazingly pointless. I think it's a stupid system that has nothing in return for damaging the balance of the game. Why bother? I don't know. It seems like a dumb decision. All of those things being said, I do find it to be really enjoyable. The movement is still really fun. The weapons are still really fun. While I don't see it as a really good competitive experience because of some of those above reasons, I do think it's really quite enjoyable if you just want to kill some time and chill out. Having health and armor pickups on the map is particularly great in the multiplayer because you literally never have downtime. You always have something that you can be doing. Some of the weapons are a little bit dull, and for an example, I'm not convinced that the likes of the chain gun or the heavy assault rifle really lead to the most enjoyable gameplay, but that's really neither here nor there. I personally have been rolling around with a static gun. It's quite cool. It generates power as you move, but loses power when you stand still, and it expels all the power it's generated with a single accurate shot. So basically it nails that old school feeling of bunny hopping around the place and trying, in my case, to aim accurately. And that's really what I'm looking for in a game like this. I usually pair it with a super shotgun or the combat shotgun in case I get to some sort of close range brawl. The multiplayer progression involves unlocking new weapons and cosmetic items, so the weapons are all unlocked quite quickly, which is a good thing. And past that, it's mostly just getting new armor skins and paint colors. It's a little bit similar to some of the Halo armor customization, actually. Look, the armor customization doesn't interest me at all, but it's actually a really good system. You can make sort of diverse and cool-looking sets of armor if that is the sort of thing that you're into. And then finally, we've got Snap Map. Mods greatly extended the lifetime of the original Doom, and of course the same goes for the likes of Quake. And they seem to have attempted a similar system here, albeit one that's baked into the game. You're able to create maps via a pretty intuitive editor that involves you snapping preset map pieces together. You can make custom rules, add mob spawns, do similar things like that. Already there's multiplayer deathmatch maps, there's multiplayer survival maps, there's a few remakes of original Doom levels. So if you're interested in creating or consuming content like that, Snap Map seems like a great feature, though it's not one that I've spent much time with and probably not one that I plan on spending that much time in either. So overall, I'm really impressed with Doom's quality. Between that, Shadow Warrior 2, Shadow Warrior itself, and then the 2 new Wolfenstein games, there's a really nice resurgence in a type of shooter that really wasn't being made a few years ago. So should you buy Doom? That just depends on how much the asking price is worth. If you want a fun campaign right now and have no problem dropping the cash, then fine, you'll have a great time. If money is tight, then you're safe waiting for the sale. After all, the strongest part of this game is the single player. If you can't wait to play this now and, £40, £30, whatever isn't that much money to you, yeah, sure, why not? But equally, you're not really losing out on that much by waiting a few months to maybe get the game half off. So, in conclusion, yeah, I think it's bloody brilliant and is pretty much within the spirit of the original, at least insofar as what I'm looking for. That's pretty much it for this video. Let me know what you think down in the comments, or of course via Twitter, which is the best way to get hold of me. Thank you very much for watching the video, and I will see you next time. With the main review done, I just want to point out that Brutal Doom is a fantastic modification for the originals. It's free to download as long as you already own a copy of the original games, and it's absolutely great. It is definitely different to the original Doom, but I think it's an extremely fun experience that I wholeheartedly recommend you try out, and the cost of entry here is far lower than buying the new Doom, so if money's a little bit tight but you still want some really good shooter action, this is pretty much your best bet.